So we're going to talk. All right. Today's webinar is going to be over understanding today's technology risk, what most businesses and individuals don't realize about their systems. Presented by Alex Rorio. That is me, the owner of Middle Tennessee IT and Cabling Solutions. Why this matters. Technology runs on nearly everything we rely on, which is true. That's your TV, your phones, your cars, your computers, the internet you use every day, how you're watching this right now. Everything relies on technology in some form or fashion. Most problems come from incorrect assumptions, thinking you're secure when you're not, thinking like a link may be secure, but it's not. Just assuming technology is secure and has your back. It does not necessarily. It doesn't go out to get you, but it necessarily doesn't have your back. You kind of have to defend yourself and your own data. And we'll go over how to do that. The biggest problem we see is false confidence. We're in the cloud, so we're safe. We have backups. We use antivirus. While all of those are great and they do work and do their job sometimes when they're supposed to, being in the cloud doesn't necessarily mean you have solid backups. You can still lose data. There's plenty of times people use OneDrive or other different cloud backup solutions and still lose their data. This kind of falls back into we have backups. And then also we use antivirus. While that worked many years ago, today you definitely need more than just an antivirus solution to help defend your technology. Whether that be a firewall, an EDR, which is lifetime protection, identity protection, so on and so forth. There's much more than just defending yourself from viruses. Misunderstanding the cloud. The cloud does not mean automatic protection. The cloud operates on a shared responsibility. You don't own that hardware. Someone else owns it, so you have to hope that they take care of it and secure it in your data like they're supposed to. Your data can be deleted, overwritten, or compromised. It's not the first time or the last time a cloud provider has had issues where people have lost their data or the data was compromised. Real examples of cloud risk. Files being deleted from shared storage. Sync messing up across devices. There's been a couple times where we've seen sync will cause issues across multiple devices and files will just go missing. We don't know how to explain it, but that just is what happens with cloud solutions. No proper backup can lead to permanent data loss. We've had this happen a couple times where OneDrive just didn't back up the one piece of data that was needed and it was gone forever. That's just how it goes. Backups versus recoverability. Having a backup does not guarantee recoverability. Here are the key questions you can ask about your backups. Can it be restored quickly? Can you restore everything? And has this process been tested? The reality of ransomware. Data encryption is only part of the problem. In fact, it's sometimes not even the biggest problem at all. Really, it's the money you lose from downtime. Sometimes this can lead for multiple hours of recovery, upwards to a couple days or a couple weeks. It can really depend on how bad the ransomware is and how many systems it affected, but it's usually more expensive than not to recover everything. So that's just one of those things you kind of want to avoid. Device security, business and homes. Weak or reused passwords, we see that all the time. If you can remember the password, it's probably someone else can remember it too. We like to recommend password vaults and LastPass or OnePass or KeyPass, something that's going to generate a secure password for you that you have to go back and kind of look at yourself and type in because it's secured. Systems that are not regularly updated. We see this all the time with systems that just aren't updated for years at a time. And, they're running operating systems that have been compromised and have vulnerabilities and just other issues that could be fixed with a simple update. Shared or unmanaged devices. This is a big one. A lot of small offices end up sharing devices or having nobody who's managing those devices, and it just goes from user to user. And before you know it, you don't know who owns what, and the data is all mixed up. And or people just click on things they're not supposed to, download things they're not supposed to, and the machine just becomes unusable. We see that all the time. Lack of monitoring. Really, this is important. Monitoring is how you become proactive and fix things before they become a problem, which is what we like to do. We kind of monitor networks, systems, printers, you name it. If it's something that is used on a day-to-day basis, it's good to kind of just go back over and check on it every so often and make sure things look good. Email. The email is the number one entry point at this point. Phishing emails, fake invoices and leaks, credential theft. Emails are honestly probably one of the biggest security risks for most businesses nowadays because it's the easiest way to get somebody to do something they're not supposed to. Whether that be clicking on a link, an invoice, or going somewhere that is a bad link, typing in passwords, and just giving away their passwords. Hidden risk in everyday softwares. This is actually pretty common. You would think a software that you download from a trusted software vendor would be good, but a lot of times they update their stuff because of security issues. So, browser extensions, free applications, outdated software, or softwares that ask for excessive permissions that they don't need. These tend to become problems later down the road. Why would certain softwares need admin rights to make changes on your system? Probably not good. So if you ever see something like that pop up, step back and go, does this system or this software really need to do this to my system? And a lot of times it probably doesn't. Who is actually responsible? You. You own your own data. Providers protect infrastructures, and security is shared. What that means is your data is your data. Providers will protect your infrastructure, so security is shared. You have to rely on yourself and others, including software vendors, so on and so forth, to kind of protect your systems. It's a two-way street, and that's why you kind of have to stay on top of updates and making sure you're monitoring things. What should you do? Test your backups regularly. Once a month is a minimum, honestly. Once every 2 weeks or so is probably a safer bet, but once a month is good to test your backups and make sure everything's working right. Use multi-factor authentication on everything. If it has the ability to use it, use it. No questions asked. This is very important. We recommend this for everybody. And in fact, a lot of times when we become providers for people, we enforce it out the gate. Why? Because it's just a second level of security and sort of the most modern level of security for average users to use without any inconveniences. Systems need to be updated. If it's online and connected to the internet, you need to run updates as often as you can. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to run an update the second it's released, but every so often you do need to run updates. Review access and permissions. A lot of times users and small businesses that don't have managers or managed services do not have permissions or access and control. You have people who have admin rights who should not have admin rights. And this is a lot of time what leads to issues down the road, whether it be security, performance, or both. But you definitely want to stay on top of your permissions and make sure the correct people have access to the correct things. Simple risk check. Do you know where your data is stored? Can you restore it today if needed? Who has access to your systems? And when was the last time this process was reviewed? It's really important to know where your data is stored. Even if you do use cloud solutions, it is important to know where it's stored and how to access that if you need it. Why? Because if you needed to restore data today, would you be able to do that? These two coexist. You can't restore data if you don't know where it's stored. So you kind of want to stay on top of knowing where your system is storing your data. Who has access to your systems? This is important. Sometimes you'd be surprised, but sometimes admin accounts, there's more than one on a system, and somebody could be using that account when you don't know. It is important to kind of review system accounts every so often, make sure permissions are set standard users, and leave things as they are and make sure everything just looks good. Closing. Awareness matters more than complexity. Sorry about that. Awareness is very important. When you get an email, be aware and make sure you double check on it. If something seems suspicious, it's probably suspicious. It doesn't have to be complex. You don't have to overthink it. Security is really simple. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably right. If the email sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. If there's a ton of urgency out of the blue, check with the person who sent it to you and make sure everything's as is and the urgency is true. Small improvements prevent major issues, like knowing where your data is stored, updating your systems, and checking access and permissions to making sure people don't have access to things they don't need. And then understanding your systems is critical. Everything that we discussed today kind of leads back to just understanding your systems or having somebody who you trust understanding your systems and keeping things secured. All right, let's see if there's any questions here. Go back to the other screen. Don't know if anyone's joined. We'll give it about 30 seconds here. Alrighty. Well, I hope everybody has a good night and see you next month.